The people, the headlines, the issues impacting you. All on This Week in Cincinnati on 9 on Your Side.
Welcome back, everyone. The subject of race and all the issues that it involves is one of the most difficult things that we talk about anywhere, but certainly here in Cincinnati. It involves so many parts of our community: politics, business, housing, economics, education, and transportation. And that's just a few areas. Now a new group says it's working to change its narrative, the narrative that is, about race in Cincinnati. Jubilee Cincinnati released a video to introduce itself just a few days ago. Take a look.
We are building a movement. It's called Jubilee. We are tired of a society that doesn't support the livelihood of ordinary people. We are tired of a predatory economy where the rich benefit and the vast majority struggle for economic security on a daily basis. Imagine a better future. Imagine a better world.
Imagine if we lived in a city that uplifted people that truly worked the hardest just to get by.
Imagine a city that works for everybody, regardless of the color of your skin, the language you speak, or the neighborhood in which you're born.
Well, among those leading Jubilee Cincinnati is this man, Marvin Hawkins. And we thank you so much, Marvin, for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so Jubilee Cincinnati is an economic empowerment initiative, but what are we really talking about here?
So Jubilee Cincinnati was an initiative, an ideal that's been around since around 2017. It was sparked out of conversations with the faith-based community and the corporate community about how to level the playing field and empower our communities here, especially communities of color, predominantly the African-American community and those surrounding. So they've been talking about creating a system, a separate ecosystem that can support and empower folks in the areas of land and housing, economic development, debt relief, and also economic empowerment. So we've been working diligently the last few months to launch this new initiative in Cincinnati. As I said, it's been around for a while, but now we have sort of kicked into overdrive, and it's going to culminate into a huge kickoff on October 12th of this year.
All right, I want to get to this alternative economy you guys are talking about, but first I want to ask you, is there some significance behind the name Jubilee?
Yes, Jubilee actually is from the Old Testament biblical text. It's a Hebrew word. Technically, this is the year of Jubilee, which is the ending of 400 years of slavery. You've all heard about the narrative that's been happening nationally around the 1619 to 2019. So this will be the year where, debts are being released and eliminated, and we have an opportunity as a people, united collectively, to rise above, and specifically those communities who have not been able to see that uptrend are being successful at being economically successful.
So then let's talk about what you mean by an alternative economy.
Well, it's the theory behind I am my brother's keeper, us supporting one another, and especially within our community here in Cincinnati and worldwide, the African-American community. We've seen that because there weren't as many opportunities for us to get ahead or to even be successful or to economically or in various aspects of society. It's really about supporting one another and really putting energy and resources and money behind this whole thought of, helping one another, pulling each other up, and so that we can prosper as one.
Okay, so you talk about in your work, in the paperwork that we got, a Reconstruction Fund to invest in African American and low-income communities. So where does that money come from? That
is money that we are seeking actually currently from many different areas: private donors, the corporate community, actually fundraising efforts. We are launching a huge grassroots campaign to not only raise the consciousness and awareness, but to also raise that money. And with that, we can start to reinvest in our neighborhoods, reinvest in us as a people, various projects, everything from housing and land acquisition to actually helping people, like I said, get out of debt and things of that nature.
All right, so let's try to give an example of how you see this working for like Joe Smith down the street. Mm-hmm. This alternative economy, this Reconstruction Fund, how does this work for this guy who needs help?
Absolutely. So hypothetically, say you have someone who is $50,000 in debt. They lost their house. They've always wanted to own a business, and they've always wanted to own a house, and they wanted to create a legacy to leave for their children. This particular Reconstruction Fund and movement, they can tap into the resources to be able to get debt counseling, perhaps get resources that will help them get out of debt, reverse that trend, to be able to then put them in places where they can become economically sustainable. Then teaching them and giving them resources on how to purchase property, purchase their first house, for instance. Create wealth that's sustainable that they can then pass on to their family members.
Is there no one doing this besides Jubilee?
There are people, we've seen some nationwide models that are currently in place as we speak and that have seen results. But as far as our region, we haven't really seen this type of movement before. So we're very, very excited about it. It's a labor of love for me and my colleagues and the folks who are our partners in this. We're working with institutions like Xavier University. We're powered by Economics of Compassion Initiative and many others in the community who have stepped forward to join this dialogue.
One of the things people love to buy homes. So the website mentions renting partnerships to help people afford more affordable homes, right? To be able to purchase a home. How would that work?
Well, there's many different models that can be used for this. We are working on a bunch of different initiatives that will be incorporated into what we call the Jubilee Alliance. One good example is Dividend Housing. We found a model where individuals can actually rent, and while they're renting, a portion of their rent can go into a fund to build equity that once they complete a long-term lease, say 5 or 10 years, they have a pot of money that they can then go to invest into a home of their own or even to open a business. So there are several different things that we're working on.
Okay, and so how is this being received so far? I mean, it's only been a little while, a couple years, but now you're really ramping up. What's the feedback?
It is being received very well. As I said, we're kicking off this conversation. It's really a national conversation on October 12th at Cincinnati State. And we're calling for the community to come out and support and learn more about Jubilee. You can get more information, of course, at our website at www.jubileecincinnati.org.
And the Reconstruction Fund, do we have an amount in there already?
We do not have a solid amount yet, but we actually are creating that fund as we speak. But we do have several donors who have come forth to help us get it off the ground and produce the infrastructure and things of that.
What do you need before you can really say, okay, guys, we're ready, let's roll?
Actually, we need folks to step forward and say, hey, we will pledge, we will invest, and that will help us get things in place, actually.
All right, Marvin Hawkins from Jubilee Cincinnati, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us.
Thank you.
Making Cincinnati safer for pedestrians, a national guideline Cincinnati may soon adopt, and what it would mean for drivers. It's next on This Week in Cincinnati.